I'm Stephanie with Baby Lock. Have you ever encountered a tricky fabric like tulle or stretchy knit fabrics or pleather? Well, guess what? I'm going to show you some cool tips and tricks today to use on those types of fabrics, and we can help you get your machines running smoothly right over them with the correct needles and the correct stitches, and just make you happy in the end with your results. So today we're going to use the Baby Lock Aventura and the Baby Lock Imagine. First, we're going to start with knits, and I'm just going to show you a little tip with pinning. And we're going to start with the serger, and you'll want to use, on knits, you'll want to use these little bitty pins because it won't poke holes in your fabric. And we're just going to stitch a seam with the serger. And I would, if you have a serger, I would recommend, highly recommend serging your knits because it's so pretty and smooth, and well, you'll see. I'll show you in a second. So when you pin and you're using a serger, you definitely want to make sure that your pins are way back and away from the foot, nowhere even close to the blade. And we have our machine set up for a 4-thread overcast, and we're just going to go ahead and run this seam right through. Okay, so this is why I would recommend a serger with knits, because, I mean, look how pretty that is. But not just that, it preserves the stretch of your fabric. So it finishes off that edge really pretty, and you can still stretch it. And then you can open this up, and you have a nice sturdy seam there. But that doesn't end there. You can use a sewing machine with knits, so that's what I'm going to show you how to do next. Okay, let's sew knits with the sewing machine, and we are going to use some 7511 stretch needles, and this is for a thinner knit fabric, and we're going to use a stitch that looks like a lightning bolt, so it's called the stretch stitch. And the stretch needle does an excellent job at penetrating the fabric and not trying to push the fabric into your machine. And also it helps you avoid skip stitches. Okay, and whenever you back stitch, it's just going to stitch right in place for you. And what's so awesome about this stitch is it still allows your fabric to stretch, whereas a straight stitch would not. And then it creates a nice, strong, sturdy seam for you. Okay, so we just worked on the knits. Now we're going to move to a coated fabric. So like a leather or a pleather, you'd want to use a leather needle. Or this is very similar to the feel of a pleather. It's coated, so it has kind of a resistance to it. But it's also, this is a knit fabric, so we'd want to use a stretch needle for this. So I have a 7511 stretch needle, and then for any of these fabrics that would have a resistance, you will want to use a Teflon coated foot. Otherwise, the foot's going to try to fight with you, and this machine, or this foot, is magic with fabrics like this. Okay, so I am just going to put a top stitch on this fabric and just show you how awesome this foot is. It's just gliding right over the fabric. So as long as you're using the correct needle size and needle type for your fabric, this foot does the rest for you. There you go. A beautiful, smooth stitch, no skip stitches, and no fighting with your foot. Let's move on to tulle. Tulle can be so fun, and I know something that intimidates a lot of people is taming the tulle, but I promise you it's not that bad. One thing that's really awesome about tulle is you don't even have to hem it. You just cut it off right where you want it because it doesn't fray or come undone. Something else that's kind of fun is you can create a really neat iridescent look just by doing, like, for example, here I have a green and a pink and a black, and it kind of creates an iridescent look, which is kind of fun. But first I'm going to show you how to stitch a seam with tulle. Okay, so something I have kind of found that is helpful when stitching a seam. First of all, you want to use a smaller needle, and then whenever you pin, do you want to go down through both layers, back up, down, up again. So it's like you're pinning it twice in one spot, and that holds your pin in place better. And we'll do a little back stitch. Just keep excess tulle out of the way. It's really easy. So even if your seams are uneven here, you can just trim it down afterwards, and it looks really nice. Pretty easy. Okay, so let's show you a couple tips with sewing elastic to tulle. This would be for like if you're making a tutu. You can see that I stitched a really long piece of fabric, and we have a couple seams here in the center, like we just did. And we have some cute elastic to go with it for the waistband. Okay, now we're going to take it to the sewing machine. Use that stretch stitch to create about a 1/2 inch to a 5/8 inch seam. The stretch needle is keeping a consistent stitch. Okay, so we have a stretch stitch here, but if you'll remember, we gathered the tulle fabric, so that wouldn't stretch at all. So what you need to do is pull your elastic, and you might hear a couple breaks, and it'll just break your thread on the inside. Okay, so if you're making a tutu like I am, to finish this, you would just fold it in on itself. Let's just pin this seam here. Okay, so this is about a 1/2 inch seam allowance. We'll do a little back stitch at the beginning. Okay, just try to keep your tulle nice and straight. Back stitch at the end. Okay, we're just going to trim this down. As straight as you can. You might put a little zigzag or a serger stitch right here so that your elastic doesn't fray. And you would turn that inside out. And you have a cute little tutu. And if you spread the layers up a little bit apart from each other, you can make your tutu poofier. And then the different colors stick out differently. So there you go. Tricky fabrics aren't so tricky. With just a couple of tools and a couple of different stitches, it's really easy. So hopefully you are set to go with your Tricky Fabrics project. Be sure to check out babylock.com for more inspiration and fun projects.